What's up, everybody? Trinity here, and welcome back to the Second Street Marvel for yet another comic book review double feature. That's right, folks. Marvel's not slowing down anytime soon with their books or their events or anything. So in today's video, I'm going to be reviewing Spider-Man 2099 and Doctor Doom 2099. The 2099 event is an event that just started, several weeks ago, maybe about a month ago in Marvel Comics, spinning out of the Amazing Spider-Man series. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Spider-Man 2099. Go ahead and take a look at that cover there. I gotta tell you, that's a pretty nice cover. It's pretty cool. So this book is being written by Nick Spencer. The artist here, let me get to it. The artist is Zay Carlos. The colors are done by Brian Reber with Andrew Crossley. And VC's Corey Petit is the letterer, and the cover is done by Victor Bogdanovich with variant cover by Travel Foreman. Jay Bowen is on design. And I'll go ahead and show you those names just in case, I'm sure I probably butchered one of those names. Hey, man, I'm not perfect. Hey, I'm not perfect. It's all good. So this story, like I said, it's all spinning out of the Amazing Spider-Man. They've got a couple of stories that kind of spun out of there recently. And this is, in this whole 2099 event, there's only this book, the one I'm getting ready to review here in just a minute, the Doctor Doom, and then there's going to be 2099 Omega, which is going to kind of tie everything up, and I'm guessing that Amazing Spider-Man, the issue after that will tie every single thing else up at the very end in issue number 36, and it tells us, they got this nice little reading order here in the back of the book for you to check out if, in case you don't know what to read or what you missed or anything like that. So this book right here basically tells the tale of Miguel O'Hara. He is the Spider-Man from 2099, and here he basically wakes up here after having a bad dream. He basically wakes up here after having a bad dream. I didn't show you that very first page there, did I? He woke up after having a bad dream, some visions and things that he had seen coming to, and then he gets woken up by his AI, man. And why can't I remember what his AI is called, man? I'm not very good with that stuff, but you know who I'm talking about. You know who I'm talking about. But so he's sitting there going through some old messages and things like that people had left for him because they're in the future and they've got cool high tech stuff. They no longer have to send text messages or sit there and mess with voicemail or anything like that. And we see him kind of getting like these kind of flashbacks and these memories of like his brother who sent him a message, and even his girlfriend or ex-girlfriend in this case, if you will. And they're talking about some funny stuff here. They're talking about like a movie they had seen and how some of the actors had been changed just due to AI and people wanting happy endings and things like that. Pretty crazy stuff. And then he ends up getting called into this office from his boss at Alchemax, Tyler Stone. And they're sitting there kind of talking about Miguel's work and just everything that he's been doing, and how he kind of, you can tell that Miguel is pretty reluctant to want to go back and doing the work that he's been doing and things like that, as he's sitting here having this conversation with his boss. And basically, he's talking a lot about how he regrets a lot of the things that he did, and just stuff like that. You can tell he's kind of fed up with living that life in Alchemax, and that's when we flash back to what happened 1 month ago, right here, as you can see in this panel right here at the very top there in the Ravage. And basically what happened there is he was going through doing some research, looks like on some creatures and things here, and he comes upon this creature right here. Like I said, I don't know a whole lot about the Spider-Man 2099 story, but he ends up doing this research, and what they were doing is they were trying to create like this biotechnology, if you will, to to sort of stop the like genetic mutations and things like that. Some pretty crazy stuff, and Miguel actually got high praise for it as well, because that's one of the things that his boss was telling him about, was about this drug that he had given him, that kind of reminds me of that movie Limitless, you know, where they take a little drug and all of a sudden they're very smart and everything. And Miguel O'Hara had taken that and had, you know, made quite a name for himself with the stuff he had done. And then we flash here to where he's going to, you know, he's going and talking to this guy about some of the stuff that he's done in his past, and, you know, kind of making a deal, because he really wants to kind of get out of all this. He's not really into it. So what happens is this guy ends up giving him this puts in this thing on, because the kind of I'm not sure if you guys can see that there in the panels. I'm not sure if the light's shining too much on that, but it basically lets him lets this guy that he's talking to impersonate Miguel O'Hara. He just puts like this little thing. Miguel puts this little thing on, and it basically projects himself onto that onto this guy, so he can help him, because, you know, he's in 2099 they go by like social scores and all kinds of different things. I won't confess to know a whole lot about it, and I kind of feel like here we don't really get much in it either. And then we run into he runs into his brother and just kind of has some words with him just about some of the things that they've been doing, where like Miguel has been working for Alchemax, who's basically the bad guys, and his brother is down in the burrows doing some work, you know, helping people out on the ground level who really need it. And we can see that him and his brother are pretty much at odds. And then we get here to the end of the book, and Miguel O'Hara, he's starting to feel like, you know, there's something amiss, because he's been having these kind of these kind of not panic attacks, if you will, but these lapses in memory, just kind of feeling weird. And then he ends up getting this vision of the Spider-Man 2099, and he ends up following it down into this hole, and that's where at the very end we get revealed to be to a character, somebody that's very familiar to him, if you will. It's kind of a surprise ending here at the very end of this book, and I'm sure we'll learn a little bit about that as he, you know, stumbles who this old man is that he ends up meeting. I'm sure it has something to do with, you know, the time travel and stuff that has been going on in the 2099 series so far. Altogether, this book, I don't know. I feel like this story gave us a little bit more than any of the other books in 2099 has. But I don't know. Let me know down in the comments below if you have read Spider-Man 2099 and what your thoughts were on it. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and move into the next book. And the next book is another one-shot, of course. That's the Doom 2099. Go ahead and take a look at that cover right there if you'd like to. Now, this book is being written by Chip Zdarsky. The artist is Marco Castiello. Chris Sotomayor is on colors, and VC's Clayton Cowles is the letterer. Tom Coker and Michael Garland are on the cover. Max Fiumara is the variant cover, and Vincenzo Acunzo is on an ink assists, and Jay Bone is on designs. Laura Morrow is the assistant editor, and Darren Shan is the editor. I'll go ahead and show you those names, because I think I probably butchered some of those, and I don't even know if, you know, I'm sure all these people did some work on this book. Okay, now guys, the one thing I want to start with this book, the art in this book, it's not too bad. It's got, you know, just depends on what you like here in this book. Now, this book is telling the story of I guess Doctor Doom that we're learning. Though we've kind of, you know, supposed to be learning in this story of this 2099 series. Or is it? I've got to say that out of all the 2099 one-shots that I've read so far, this one is actually probably my favorite one out of all of them. It seems to be the only one that really made any kind of sense. Sort of. What we do is we open up here on this scene where we see this guy and this body being dragged, and you can see some of that there in the art. He's being dragged by these people here in the Ravage, and what we find out later is that this is actually in the future in 2099. But he's being dragged by these people, and, you know, they have no clue who he is. He's practically naked. You know, he's wearing the Hulk outfit. You know what I mean? And so he ends up being taken by these people, and they're wanting to kill him. Of course, after they take him to I can't remember who it is that they're looking to take him to. But he's caught by some Thorites here, and the Thorites have been pretty prevalent here throughout this story. So he ends up beating up all these people except for the one of them, because the one of the kids didn't really want to have to murder him or anything to do like that. So he ends up taking him. They end up going to this building that's basically at the edge of the ravage, if you will. And it ends up being the Tinkerer who they run into. And the Tinkerer is kind of wondering who this guy is, what he's there for, what he's doing, and all that kind of stuff. And he ends up giving Doom this weapon, of one of these hammers, like Mjolnir, and he's sitting there talking about this thing builds cities. This is all I need, and with your technology, I can help build something here. But then we find out he starts having these visions, these visions with Reed Richards, who's sitting there somewhat like talking to him, kind of chastising him, if you will, kind of through this whole story. And then they end up getting, while he's sitting there in this building working, we find out that we get the 2099 Kingpin that comes into the story, and pretty much pretty much tells him like that he's there to kill him, because what he does is he goes around killing all these other versions, all these other Dooms, is what he says. He kind of tells him like if you're not a Doom bot, you're certainly one of the best, one of the better impersonators who has come, kind of risen, claiming to be the next Doctor Doom. And he's asking like, hey, well, who sent you here? And this person's like, well, you did. And that's where they kind of get into this scuffle. And this is really where the story gets interesting, because it was getting kind of interesting in the first place. And we're flashing back and forth between these scenes here, between this fight between the future Kingpin, the 2099 Kingpin, and Doctor Doom. And then this fight where we flash back to where we see Doctor Doom fighting with Reed Richards. And there's just some interesting things going on here that we're learning throughout this fight, as he's trying to get to the center of this ravage, this fortress that we see that Doom finally makes it to here towards the end of the book, and confronts the 2099 Doom, who is in charge. And he gets there, and the other Doom kind of somewhat knows who he is, and he's sitting there trying to figure out exactly what's going on. They're kind of really getting a feel for each other here. And then, they kind of get into a scuffle, and, he was talking about how he had this, what was it? He calls a Doom generator, a Doom, one of those things, a Von reactor. And I'm not big on like the Fantastic Four or anything. Just let that be. I'm just letting that be known. I haven't really read much Fantastic Four. And he says, but he don't need much energy that's left out of this that's left in the suit that he had made, because all he needs is this one word to bring it all to an end. And then he says the word, and then they end up getting into this scuffle, and he ends up falling seemingly to his death. Now, this is where some of the interesting stuff comes in at the very end of the book. I don't want to give this one away because there's just some interesting things that happen here towards the end of the book that really plays a big part in this story going forward. And that this book I actually like. This one book out of all of these 2099 books seems to be like the only decent one. I mean, and I can't say that all the writers of all these books have been bad or anything like that. I'm not speaking about the writers. I'm just thinking the storyline overall seemed to not really make any sense in any of the 2099 books, except for this one. This one in itself was kind of... It didn't really make much sense neither. I read this book like 2-3 times because I'm just like, what's going on here? And then I finally figured it out, which is something that's like, whoa! Like, by the end of this book, you're like, whoa, okay. Whoa, there's some major stuff going on here. And I still don't think that it validates any of, makes the other, not validates, but makes the other books that have come relevant. But this one was actually really good. And I cannot wait to read maybe the 2099 Omega, or what's going to be coming out in the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 36? Is it number 36 getting ready to come out? Yeah, that we see here at the very back of the book that's getting ready to come out. So yeah, this one, like I said, guys, This one was very, very interesting. If there's any of the 2099 books you want to read, just read this one. Just read, maybe just read the Alpha, read this one, then read the Omega. I honestly don't think you need to read any of the other titles that have come out. I mean, the Spider-Man 2099 didn't seem to make much sense. I honestly don't even think that the Fantastic Four 2099 gave any real kind of indications or implications of what's going on in this book. Like I said, largely they've all seemed like a bunch of one-shots, but this one actually seems like it's tying into a bigger story. This one I actually like, guys. This one was actually a really good book. One good book out of all of these books, and I can't wait to see how this story turns out just due to this book. I can't give credit to the other books because they just seem to be not really make any sense in driving this story forward. So yeah, this one was actually really good. But let me know down in the comments below. Like I said earlier, have you been reading the 2099 event? Have you been keeping up with it? Have you read all of the one-shot books that have come out of this? I know there was Conan 2099. I think that's the one I forgot to read and review here on the channel was the Conan. But, there's this Amazing Spider-Man's a tie-in here. Obviously, there's Alpha, the Fantastic Four, Conan, the Punisher, Ghost Rider, and Venom, and now Doom. And Spider-Man 2099 that have all tied into this. Have you read any of those books? I mean, if you have, what did you think about them? What have you thought about 2099 so far? Like I said, for me, it's been pretty lackluster, and I would say it's been actually really terrible up until this Doom 2099 issue. This one is actually good, but and it's kind of got me waiting to see the very end of this series, which I guess thankfully, honestly. But that's all I have for this video today, folks. Thank you all so much for tuning into the Second Street Marvel. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe, click the little bell, all that good stuff. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, give it a thumbs down if you like. It's all good. But while you're at it, make sure that you share it with a friend and invite them to come hang out with us here on the Second Street Marvel. You all have a very good day. Have a great rest of your week. Let's talk about these comics down in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video. Later.